Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat.
Buongiorno a tutti, adesso partiamo con l'online. So we are starting with the online. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to all of you, both online connected and here in presence in Courmayeur, in this beautiful location of Skyway Monte Bianco. I am Carlo Vigna from Aosta Valle region, and we are leading the Action Group 5 of USALP, the European strategy for the Alpine region. I'm very glad to open this 2023 edition of Digital Alps conference under the year of the Swiss presidency of USALP, and I thank you the overall coordination of the presidency and also the support given to the action groups. The goal of the Digital Alps Conference 2023 is to discuss the potential of digitalization and the resilience and development of mountain and rural territories. In particular, we want to develop the perspective of local communities that live in these territories and the potential of digital for the future generations. The Digital Alps Conference is a two-day event, and in the first day, today, we will develop 4 interactive workshops on what we think are the main topics to address at the moment at the Alpine level. The digital transformation of mountain territories through the smart community approach, the potential of data and artificial intelligence, the remote work and digital skill for future job, the contribute of digitalization to the energy transition and to the adaptation to the climate change. Tomorrow, in the second day, the discussion will be at the political level, starting from the contribution of some members of the European Parliament on two main topics. The first one is the artificial intelligence and what is going on at the European level. And the second one is a view on what the Alpine territories need to address effectively the smart transition. The following political roundtable will be with a representative from Alpine regions and also from municipalities. And we will develop what are the policy options to unleash the potential of digitalization in mountain and rural areas. All the content developed during the Digital Alps conference will of course, be a contribution to the overall USALP strategy, and in particular to the cross-cutting priorities promoting digitalization in the Alps. Maybe you already know, but the USALP has 4 main cross-cutting priorities, and one of them is the digitalization. Together with accelerating the energy transition for carbon neutral Alpine region, promoting joint water management, and boosting circular economy. So we are very happy to be here in Courmayeur, and I'm very glad to call on the stage to give the floor to the Deputy Mayor of Courmayeur, Federico Perrin. Federico, the floor is yours.
Grazie a tutti e buongiorno. Farò un intervento molto rapido anche perché credo che gli argomenti oggi in discussione siano estremamente interessanti e importanti, e quindi non voglio rubare sicuramente dei minuti preziosi alla conferenza di oggi. Il mio compito è quello di appunto portarvi i saluti dell'amministrazione comunale di Courmayeur. È sempre un onore per il comune di Courmayeur avere sul suo territorio delle conferenze così importanti e soprattutto delle conferenze che hanno una visione verso il futuro e le nuove tecnologie. Quindi vi ringrazio a tutti, buon lavoro e un benvenuti a Courmayeur. Grazie.
Grazie Vice Sindaco per i suoi saluti e per i suoi auguri per i lavori che seguiranno. Sicuramente USALP fa parte delle 4 macro strategie regionali sostenute dall'Europa, e questa convention è cofinanziata da Spazio Alpino dal progetto Support USALP. Quindi è un piacere chiamare sul palco l'assessore Caveri. Assessore, il palco è suo.
Seulement quelques mots en langue française, je passerai à l'italien, mais c'est juste rappeler l'historique de notre vallée, une région bilingue, la plus petite région d'Italie. Hier, on était à Assisi, on a eu l'honneur d'être dans la grande église d'Assisi pour rappeler Saint François, le même jour où le pape François, lui aussi, bien sûr, avec ce nom, il a lancé de nouveau un appel pour la nature, pour l'environnement. Et justement, le Mont Blanc est un signe. C'est la montagne plus haute d'Europe. Et donc, le changement climatique pèse beaucoup sur notre territoire. E USALP, o SUERA, come si dice in francese, è stata una fatica da ottenere. Ero fra coloro che parteciparono alla prima riunione fondativa, eravamo ancora all'inizio degli anni 2000, all'epoca ero parlamentare europeo, e ci trovammo nella sede della Baviera, pensando che ci dovesse essere, nella logica di un'Europa diversa da quella solamente degli Stati, che ci dovesse essere un meccanismo di maggior collaborazione fra le regioni alpine. Oggi sono 48 le regioni, chiamiamole regioni, poi ci sono i Länder, le repubbliche svizzere, che fanno parte di questo sistema. Ed è stata una scelta coraggiosa. Il mio pensiero è che naturalmente bisogna dare una maggior forza politica a questa istanza internazionale così importante, che è ben diversa dalla Convenzione alpina, che continua ad essere gestita dagli stati nazionali. Alle riunioni ci sono i rappresentanti di Berna, ci sono quelli di Parigi, ci sono quelli di Berlino, ci sono quelli di Roma. Invece EUSALP vede nella democrazia locale il proprio cuore. Resta ancora un tema che dovrà essere affrontato, di differenziare le grandi città subalpine dalle zone realmente di montagna, ma questo è un altro tema. Va detto che il digitale ha cambiato la nostra vita. Prima era molto difficile dialogare fra di noi. Oggi con le videoconferenze, come quella che stiamo facendo in questo momento, con l'interscambio di posta elettronica, è diventato tutto più facile. Il secondo aspetto è questo luogo straordinario, questa nuova funivia che è stata realizzata all'inizio degli anni 2000. La prima funivia risaliva agli anni 40 del secolo scorso ed era stata realizzata, così come la liaison che ci lega all'Aiguille du Midi francese, da un ingegnere biellese, Lora Totino, un industriale tessile, lo stesso che ebbe il coraggio nel 1947 di cominciare a scavare il tunnel del Monte Bianco. Poi fu fermato dalle autorità perché era una cosa del tutto abusiva, e poi qualche anno dopo finalmente il tunnel venne realizzato e aperto nel 1965. Sugli aspetti politici e dell'importanza del digitale parleremo molto domani. Saremo tra l'altro in collegamento con il deputato Benifei, un deputato italiano, che è relatore al Parlamento di Bruxelles, al Parlamento europeo. In questo momento è in corso quello che tecnicamente si chiama trilogo, cioè il dialogo fra Commissione, Parlamento europeo e Consiglio europeo. È una cosa molto strana che quando sono stato Presidente della Commissione Politiche Regionali e Trasporti del Parlamento europeo ho vissuto, e cioè a differenza di altre istanze democratiche al Parlamento europeo su un testo come questo regolamento sull'intelligenza artificiale, quando ci sono posizioni diverse ci si chiude in una stanza, le tre istanze democratiche, e si cerca un punto di equilibrio. Sicuramente domani Benifei ci spiegherà che cosa vuole fare l'Europa sull'intelligenza artificiale, che è un grandissimo elemento di avanzamento di cui non bisogna avere paura. Molti di voi sono degli esperti e lo sanno bene, partendo dal presupposto, ad esempio, che la nostra fondazione Courmayeur, che si occupa dei problemi del cambiamento climatico, ha cominciato a lavorare sull'intelligenza artificiale proprio a tutela di questo massiccio montagnoso, per cercare di capire prima tutti quegli eventi naturali che possono dimostrarsi pericolosi. Buon lavoro per gli incontri di questo pomeriggio. Con alcuni di voi ci vedremo questa sera a cena e domani saremo qui per la parte politica. Buon lavoro a tutti.
Grazie Assessore per le importanti parole su EUSALP, sul digitale, sulle tematiche che sicuramente stanno cambiando e trasformando la nostra società e i nostri territori. Now, before to start with the technical workshop, I will introduce the moderator of the workshop that will bring and conduct us during the works of the afternoon. And so I am pleased to ask to Paolo Perucci from Friuli Venezia Giulia just to stand up. He is also AG5 member and the focal point for digital infrastructure, and also to ask to Jan Droge from the BCO network, the European network of broadband competency offices. Thank you, Droge. They will try to support us to have an answer, not simple, to how to activate the engine of digital transformation of mountain territories, and in particular using the smart community approach as a connection between these topics. Then the second workshop, this workshop will be here in this room in a few minutes. The second workshop And I will ask you to Daria Kukovic from ITC cluster Slovenia, also AG5 member at the focal point for all the topic of data. And she will try to bring the discussion on how to unleash the potential of data and the use of artificial intelligence for the specificity of alpine territories, but because this is the point. And this workshop will be in Sala Cinema Alpino, and for the people connected online, there will be a breakout room in Zoom. Then at 16 o'clock, after the break, there will be other two workshops. And the first one, I will ask to Mauro Casotto from Trentino Sviluppo and co-leader of AG3 to stand up. Thank you, Mauro. And also to Mauro Scolozzi from Skopje to stand up also, because they will moderate this workshop. And also this workshop is challenging because the topic is the remote work, but is what we see now of the transformation of how the people work, but also what are the skills, the digital skill for the future job in the mountains. So what we can think about this transformation and how we can prepare the young people also, and we will see there is an involvement also on young people in this workshop. And is not yet here, but the last workshop is moderated by Etienne Vienot from Aura Energy. He is also the co-leader of AG9. And the topic, the challenge is how can the digitalization contribute to accelerate the energy transition to our green economy and also to adapt to the climate changes. So all the mega trends that will disrupt all our communities and how to start to cope with them with digitalization. So I thank you, all of you, for participating, for the work that will be done this afternoon. And we can start now with the technical workshop. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paolo Perucci from Friuli Venezia Giulia Autonomous Region, member of Action Group 5 of USALP Macro-Regional Strategy. Well, as USALP Action Group 5, we'll be working for long on infrastructures, services, and skills that are needed to enable a digital transition in rural and in particular mountain areas. A digital transition that we all know that is even more urgent in territories with a lack of physical connections and low population density. Public investments are relevant and essential to support competitiveness and avoid depopulation, and is up to all of us to work, to do our best to identify the strategies to provide to the policymaker an effective way. But digital transformation has been on our plans for years, for decades. But in the last 3 years, also due to the pandemic crisis, it concretely started to be a consistent and valuable part of our daily life. And there is no going back. For instance, digital identities in Italy were 6 million in March 2020, and now there are more than 36 million, more than the 50% of population. Public administration are investing more and more resources, also thanks to the Recovery and Resilience Fund, to provide digital services. And on the other side, the demand from citizens has radically changed. A new service is, first of all, thought as to be provided digitally from both sides of the desk. So after decades of plans, figures tell us that the changes in action and European, national and local institutions are fostering this change with tenders, with the aim to use and to develop use cases that can be replicated all over Europe and, in our hearts, all over the Alps. In the past years, some relevant calls have been launched, and both public and private bodies have developed interesting experience that we would like to share with the audience. So, on the stage with me, there are Jan Dröge, the Director of Broadband Competence Office, Jure Triller from University of Ljubljana, Peter Nieder, Vice Director of SAB, and connected online, there are Gianluca Lentini, Poliedra Politecnico di Milano, and Livia Ortolani, University of Pisa. So thanks to all the panelists to be here today. Thank you very much. Jan, we met in the framework of Broadband Competence Office, and for me, as a small region, as a small BCO, it was and it is also today a great opportunity to learn from other countries and to get in touch with all the relevant European DGs involved in the development of infrastructures. Could you tell us more about the opportunities in terms of funding and capacity building offered by the European Commission to develop faster and more reliable infrastructures and, in general, to handle the digitalization process?
Thank you. Oh, it's okay. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Perfect. Okay. So first of all, thank you, Paolo, for the introduction and for the invitation. Thank you to Carlo and to the Action Group for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. As Paolo mentioned, my job is to bring connectivity to rural areas and those parts of the European Union where there's no good internet connectivity. I've been doing this for the last 6 years under instruction or contract, so to say, from the European Commission under a project called Broadband Competence Office Network, BCO Network. It's a bit of a long title, but it's exactly as Paolo mentioned. The objective is to bring together the policymakers and decision makers and planners in charge of connectivity and broadband in order to learn from each other and accelerate the rollout. Why are we doing this? Well, first of all, the European Union has set targets of what the connectivity for everyone in the EU should be. And as you can see, for 2020, the objective was that everybody should have access to 30 megabit. And we didn't reach that objective. So by the end of 2020, we had to realize that there were still many parts of the EU that had, let's put it like this, bad connection. Then the new target is for 2025 for everyone to have access to 100 megabit, but for socioeconomic drivers, so schools, hospitals, fire departments, to have access to gigabit connection, and to have already rolled out 5G connectivity for the mobile connectivity. This was very quickly updated before we reached even 2025 by the Commission after 2020, when we realized that the 2020 target was not met. They created the Digital Decade Plan. So the objective to reach by 2030 gigabit for everyone in the EU. And as you can imagine, 3 years ago we did not have 30 megabit. So to get 1,000 megabit for everyone is a major challenge. So that's, so to say, the purpose and the raison d'être for the BCO network. Where do we stand? So the map is not maybe so easy to interpret. You can find it on the website of the Joint Research Center. It's the research center of the European Commission. It's not the map that you normally see, because very often you see the map that our governments provide us, which is based on the feedback from the telecom operators. And they make projections, calculations, algorithms based on their infrastructure of what is the theoretically available speed in area X. This map was developed by the research center based on user data. What do users actually get? And it's a bit sad, but what the users say and what the operators say is not always one-on-one the same. And the users don't always experience the best connectivity. And I'm not going to go through the whole map in detail, but as you can see, when it's light blue, which is most of Europe, it's rural and badly connected. If it's dark, it's good. That means you have good connectivity. But as you can see, unless you live in Sweden or Finland, the probability that you have bad connection in a rural area is quite high. Now the data is from 2021. Things are getting better every day. So our policymakers, the telecom operators, municipalities, local initiatives, there are many, many people driving to make this better. But as you can see, there's still a long way to go, particularly in the rural areas. It's a bit sad because I know there's the Alps conference in Switzerland. It's not part of the EU, so the data isn't there. And it's a little bit better than the average EU data, but in the mountainous areas, it's still not perfect. So that's where we start. Why does it matter to us? Because in fact, most of the areas that have bad connection are rural areas and mountain areas. And I should add, but this is not the topic for today, islands. Yeah, this, of course, if you're on a Greek island or on a Swedish island, you also have a good probability of maybe not having great connectivity. And why is that? Mountain areas, and you know this much better than me, I'm not here to teach you anything, but my job is to so to say, make the bridge with the people planning the investments, is that it's a very diverse environment. It's not like mountain areas are like this. They are poor and remote and low population. That's not at all true. There are certain parts of valleys that are dense populated, have great connection, but that's the problem, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you. The valleys is often where the, not just the broadband infrastructure, it's the same for roads, railways, electricity, for all the others. But as soon as you leave the main valleys and you go either up or inside valleys, then the challenges appear. So this topic of remains the challenge, I think, for all your member states in the Alpine Arc, but also for other mountain areas, even the non-Alpine mountain areas in Romania and Spain, the challenges are very similar. So there's not an easy answer, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. So, and I don't think I'm here to bring any answers, but as Paolo asked me to maybe start the discussion, what could maybe be done? Where could we start? So how does this mountainous character of regions impact connectivity? What are the two main technologies and the role of the public sector? So what can we actually do to intervene? And I only have 10, 15 minutes, so again, we will not be able to go to the bottom of all of this, but it's just to bring maybe some points for discussion or elements of thought. The most important is that in the EU, investment in broadband is not the job of the governments, it's the job of the private sector. It's the telecom operators, Telecom Italia, Swisscom, Orange, Vodafone, whoever, to bring the connectivity. And they do a fantastic job. 90% of the investment in the EU is done by the private sector, and it works very, very well. But of course, if it's a private investor, they do it based on a business case. If I invest there, will I get money back? And so the problem appears if the business case is not attractive and there is no return on investment in the time frame and to the level that they expect. So this is the key challenge. So what drives? There are many elements, but the two key elements that why mountain areas are particularly affected is demographics. So the lower the density in a region, of course, the less customers you have, so the more, the less the return on investment, because by law, we cannot charge people in, let's say, less densely populated areas more than the people in the city. The tariff is the same for everybody in France or in Italy or in Germany, yeah? If you subscribe to a certain tariff, it doesn't matter where you live. But that means for the operator, it's less interesting if it's not densely populated, if there's a low population density. That's one aspect, but that's not the only one. And I know in the Alpine Arc, this is not the big challenge, but there are still parts also of the Alpine Arc, but in many other mountainous areas in the EU, it's a big topic. It's not just low population density, but decreasing population density. Because your business case is bad if you have, I don't know, less than X inhabitants per square kilometer, and I'm not, let's say, Telecom Italia, so I cannot tell you what it is. If it's 100 or 50 inhabitants per square kilometer, they can tell you what is attractive to them. But if a village has 1,000 people now, and I make a business case, okay, in 20 years I have my money back, but in 20 years there's not 1,000 people in the village, there's 500 people in the village. Well, then my business case is dead again. So it's not just the population density, it's also the demographic dynamics. If the population decreases, the business case becomes very, very difficult, and this is a major challenge in many mountain areas. And of course, there's the topology. We all think of internet as this. There's nothing, we don't see anything. We're all on Wi-Fi, so it's great. But of course, to get the Wi-Fi, there's antennas, and the antennas are connected to a cable or to a radio link. And to bring the infrastructure, that's the expensive part. The antenna itself is only, it depends where, but 20% of the cost. 80% of the cost is to dig the trenches and to bring the cables up to the mast so that the antenna can actually emit a good signal. And this is an average. 80% is the average in Europe. If you're in a mountain area, it's probably much more. Yeah, the antenna becomes a fraction of the cost, but to bring the cable all the way to a remote part and maybe up a mountain is a real challenge. Well, basically challenges the cost structure. So this dual challenge of the demographics and the topology is why in mountainous areas we have lesser connectivity. I'm not teaching you anything, you all know this, but there's two technologies, of course. That's terrestrial connection, where you bring a cable to the house, to the farm, to the ski lift, whatever. This is generally the main part, but this, of course, is again limited to the main valleys. As soon as you're outside of the densely populated areas, the more likely connectivity is mobile. And this is much more cost effective and a great way of doing things, but the reality of physics, it's based on line of sight. So this works very well in other rural areas, but it works not so well in mountainous areas where line of sight is often a challenge. So, and therefore, in order to have a good line of sight, you put the mast where there's no one on the top of the hill or the mountain to have the, but so it's again a dual challenge for mountainous areas. It's the topology challenges the technology that we use, or the demography challenges the other technology that we use. Yeah. So what can we do? Most of you are policymakers or advisors to policymakers. And so what can we do? Because if it's for the private sector to make the investment, what can we as stakeholders bring to the discussion and accelerate? And every country has its own tools and mechanisms, but as Paulo said, the European Union is investing huge amounts. I think you're funded by Interreg, so I think all of you are, at least to a degree, familiar with the EU budget cycles. You know that the EU does budgets in 7 years. So if we go back 2 cycles, in the 2014-2020 cycle, there was more or less 2 billion euro for broadband investment by the EU. Then in the previous cycle, there was 6 billion, and now we have more than 16 billion. Yeah? So we had a tripling of the amount of money invested by the EU in connectivity each time, 3 times more. So the problem is taken very seriously. It's not that the EU or our policymakers are not taking this seriously. But, well, our targets are also much more challenging. We went from 30 megabit to 1,000 megabit, so there might still be a gap. I think I lost the gap. So different actions can be done. The first is, of course, to look at what is the business case, what is the actual investment, and there are different ways. And I'm not inventing anything here. I'm not saying anything that has not been said before. But a key element is to pool demand, stimulate demand, because of course the investors, the more people will actually pay for the infrastructure, the more likely it is they will bring the investment. So, and this is something that there are many initiatives, there are many great examples where local communities got together to get the villagers, the citizens together to say, okay, we will all pay for the faster speeds. There is the possibility to share infrastructure. So when you build, I don't know, a téléphérique, I don't know how you say, a cable car, up the mountain, then you're already building a lot of infrastructure. Then you can co-deploy cables. And the same is the case if you are digging up a street to put in water ducts or whatever, then try and co-deploy also the ducts for the fiber optic cables. Because it's the digging up the street that is expensive. It's not the fiber optic cable. Yeah. So this co-deployment and sharing infrastructure is one of the key elements that the EU is trying to push. But there's still a lot of reluctance from many stakeholders, both from the infrastructure owners, but also sometimes from the municipalities, because sometimes the municipality own the water company and don't want to share with the telecom operator, etc., etc. So there are many hurdles to this. But if you want better connectivity in rural areas and you don't want to pay more, then make the deployment cheaper. That's the best way. And there is a directive on this already. So it's not like, as I said, I'm not inventing anything. There's the cost reduction directive, but it's applied very unevenly across the EU, let's say. And then another element that for many operators, the infrastructure owners, the Telecom Italias, the Vodafones that deploy the infrastructure, one of the challenges that they have is the building permits, to actually get the permission to put masts up, the permission to dig up the street. And again, this is a particular challenge in mountain areas because often there are not so many streets, so you cannot block the street because there's only one access road. So if you give a permit to someone to dig, then it's a challenge. So again, this is so important to co-deploy. When you dig up the street, make it for everyone, not just the water or the gas or the electricity, but also co-deploy the fiber optics. But the permitting is, if you ask the telecom operators, it's their #1 challenge, to get the permits in a reasonable time frame. And even more so, and I don't want to get into controversy, but even more so to put up 5G masts. So what can we do? Well, maybe I should have put my second bullet. I'll start with the second bullet because that should actually be the start, is to understand the problem. In order to know where you want to intervene, where you want to help, you need to know where is the problem. And this is what we call mapping. So it's a identification of the areas where the connection is good and the areas where the connection is bad. Which citizens have good access, which have bad access. And not just citizens, it's also the businesses. Because in rural areas, in mountainous areas, they will only be dynamic if they're not just the citizens, but also the businesses have good connectivity. Yeah, and I know there's a workshop this afternoon on remote working. Well, that's crucial. So the first thing is to understand where the challenges are, where the white spots are. And in each country, there is such an atlas, but it's normally done by the National Regulatory Authority, and the data that you locally have will often be more accurate than the aggregate data that I have for the whole country. So by working between you, the local stakeholder, and whoever does the atlas in your country, you can actually do the best possible pinpointing of the pain points in order to find solutions. And then do it in dialogue with the investors. Because in the end, this is what you want to do. You want to attract the investor to build the infrastructure. So talk to them what it is that would facilitate or stimulate them bringing the connectivity to area. I'm not saying it always works, but it should definitely be the first step. And many regions are reluctant to engage in dialogue directly with the operators, but it's the way. In the end, they will be the ones doing it. They've done it a million times. They know how to build it. There are many regions that, when they get frustrated and fail, intervene, and that is certainly a good and laudable intervention. But the reality is that the Telecom Italias and the Vodafones, they do it every day. They will do it per kilometer cheaper than any of us if we start reinventing it. So the business case is probably still better if we manage to attract investors. And then don't think that you have to start at zero, that, oh my God, Jan, yes, this is all logical, but where do I start? You're not alone. In each country and in many of the regions, like Paolo, there are broadband competence offices. There are people specifically there to advise the municipality or the regional government, the county, the canton, whatever, to address this problem. So this is exactly the network that we're working with. Paolo does it for the region around Trieste. Carlo does it for Val d'Aosta. And there are experts in each Italian region, in each French region, in each German region, etc. So don't think that you have to find this all by yourself. Talk to your BCO, strengthen your BCO. Paolo, may I still take 2 minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So this was my presentation, my so to say, stimulate the discussion on bringing infrastructure. But I discussed with Paolo when he invited me to come, because just last week, actually, I was invited to Sigüenza, which is in Spain, because as you probably know, for the moment it's the Spanish presidency of the European Union, and they organized a high-level policy forum for rural areas. So it was not mountain areas, it was rural areas, and I had the privilege to be invited exactly on the panel on rural connectivity. So, I just gathered 3 or 4 bullets that the others said. There were many stakeholders, farmers associations, associations of mayors, etc., talking about what they think we should do in order to make connectivity in the EU better. So I just thought I'll share a few of the feedback and voices that I heard in Sigüenza. And as I said, it was in Spain, of course, by the Spanish presidency, but there were people from everywhere. We're speaking with people from Ireland, from Sweden, from Slovenia, Croatia, etc. So, the first thing that all of them said was listen to the local stakeholders, talk to the local associations, NGOs, because many things are being done. The farmers associations, the cooperative, don't do it top down. I guess in your case, this is not the issue. This is exactly your mantra as well. But this was the big message from the local stakeholders to the national governments at the presidency event. And therefore empower the local action groups. I guess this is exactly what US Alps is all about. So I think you're doing this already. What was very important that they said is empower more women, because in many of the advisory boards, farmers associations, cooperatives, it's like 80% men in rural areas. So I see you smiling, but it is what it is. And even here you see on the panel, we're 100% men. So that's suboptimal, because half the brain power is in the other half of the population, maybe more than half, I don't know. But and they should be listened to more and be engaged, because they play very crucial and pivotal roles in the rural areas. And then, even though my mantra was, and I said before, talk to the telecom operators, work with them, they know better than anyone how to build telecom infrastructure, but still sometimes that doesn't work. There are certain valleys or mountain areas or rural areas where they will not go. You can beg them and give them money, but they will not come. And then there are many great ways to do it bottom up as citizens' initiatives. And there was several workshops happening in Sigüenza on what they call third places, but I guess in the mountain areas, this is what we would call commons. Yeah. So, and there are commons for infrastructure, for telecoms infrastructure, where the citizens themselves deploy the cables, own the cables, run the cables, and or the antennas. In the end, you still need an operator to fire them up. But as I said, that's not the problem. The problem is generally building and laying the cables. And if sometimes it's the best way that the citizens do it themselves. There are several examples from Spanish mountain areas in Aragon that did that. They were frustrated with the operators not coming, so in the end they took the tractors and they did it themselves. And then maybe the last point is, when we're talking about rural areas, the majority of money that we think about is the Common Agricultural Policy, or as it's now called, the CAP strategies. Yeah? This is the majority of the money that in rural areas we're used to working with the Rural Development Funds and the Pillar 1. But most countries have not, even though it's possible, but most countries have not planned any broadband infrastructure funding under CAP. There are a couple of exceptions, but in Italy and France, there's no money under CAP foreseen for connectivity, because there was so much money under the Recovery and Resilience Facility. I don't know if you remember, but there was this huge budget by the EU post-COVID crisis. But that money has a short time frame, if I may say. By 2026, it's supposed to be spent. And by 2026, I don't think all the problems will be solved. So what will happen then? So I think sooner or later, the rural stakeholders, including the mountainous stakeholders, will have to think about, okay, if we need public funding intervention, how are we going to tap this, and can we include it into the CAP strategies? I'm not saying it has to be done, I'm not saying it has not to be done, but it's definitely a question, because as I said, most CAP strategies don't have it right now. Each of your countries, Italy, France, Germany, whatever, Slovenia, they all have national broadband plans of what should be done. But I think if the rural strategies and the national broadband strategies can come closer together, that would certainly be beneficial for the rural areas. Voilà, Paolo. I think I threw many things out there, but I'll stop for now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan. Some of the challenges you mentioned before was tackled just for the new broadband strategy in Italy that was being released just few months ago. And also there are some changes in the GBER recently on mobile connectivity. I think this could be, we are on the right path to solve, to face the problems and the target we wanted to get. But broadband connectivity is one enabling technology. There are services, there are skills to improve. Peter, thank you very much for joining from Tourcoing-Mayer. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Pomorye region, which was one of the pilot action of the project Smart Village. So the project has finished at the moment, but what can you give me some information about the lesson we learned on the project?
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Paolo, for this opportunity to talk about smart villages. You see it on the title, on the presentation I brought with me, from smart villages to smart Alps to smart community. So I will take the opportunity a bit to make a wrap up of the last steps which AG5 and USALP made. May I have the... How do I just... Oh, okay. Yeah, so OISALP and AG5, especially AG5, was thinking a lot in terms of digital connectivity, about new projects to develop, to bring forward the rural areas in terms of technology, new forms of participation, etc. So with the project and the USALP work, there were different steps. So to really put this Smart Villages project in the right context, we are going a bit back to 2016, yes, where there was this work plan of AG5, where smart villages as strategic implementation initiative were formed in the HA5, and we started our project in 2018, the Smart Villages project, and finalized it in 2021. So the outcome of the Smart Villages project was integrated into USALP again. I think this is interesting also from a governance point of view. And out of this, the Smart Alps network was created, and later on, and also the Digital Alps conference, the first Digital Alps conference took place 2 years ago. And then, of course, out of these former steps, the Smart Community project was founded, on which my colleague Jure Trilar will talk a bit later on. So Smart Villages. Actually, we are losing sometimes the connection here, but now we are back, or else I would just turn my head to this screen. No, this. Okay, so just to define a bit the Smart Villages concept, actually we were working mainly and building up on existing local strengths. We are talking about villages, we are talking about bottom-up processes. Then, of course, the participatory approach is very important in the Smart Villages projects. These are also lessons learned out of the project, that these points are important. We have to develop together with the local population new projects, smart projects, so that we have a certain legitimacy, and also we can divide the workload on different shoulders, and we can engage, mobilize the people in the territories, so that an initiative is supported and supported and driven forward by different people, by many people. So of course there is the sustainability aspect. We for sure want to bring forward the sustainable development with a smart project, Smart Villages project, and we want to exploit and use to a maximum extent the new digital technologies. And we also, of course, cooperate with urban rural areas, and we want to use synergies between different initiatives and different projects. So cooperation is also a very important characteristic of Smart Villages. So what were we doing? And my lessons learned afterwards are very much based on the pilot activities we were doing. More than 20 pilot activities in all over the Alpine space have been developed, have been implemented. You see here a bundle of different activities going from the digital village square marketplace to car sharing, to e-governance, to blockchain approach in the marketing of regional products, etc., etc. So all over we had really a bundle of a big bunch of different pilot activities realized, implemented by our project partners. So out of this experiences on the ground, and also with these regional stakeholder groups we had in every test area, we formulated policy recommendations, and yeah, we can say also that these are lessons learned. First point, consider the smart transformation of mountain rural and peripheral villages as a strategic priority. So we have really to be aware on all levels that digitalization and a smart rural transition is really the way to develop peripheral areas, to bring them forward. They are hampered by topographic conditions. As Jan already mentioned, topology is a very important issue, and then of course population density. So we have to bring forward these new aspects, new rollouts of new technologies, especially forward in rural areas, rural peripheric areas, and make them a forefront of digital development. Then, yes, the strategies and policies. Of course, strategies and policies are kind of a guideline, for future development. It's very important that we take opportunities to integrate, to benefit of these lots of opportunity to integrate the smart villages approach, the smart transition into strategies and policies. We were talking about your broadline or broadband strategy in Italy, or also in Switzerland we have a digital strategy where we have targets which are even a bit more ambitious than those of the EU, and we have this constitutional obligation for the service provider of Swisscom to provide broadband internet for everybody of 80 megabit per second, and this is realized, implemented already. So I think this is really a big effort and a big merit, and it's worth to be copied in other countries too. So and there are many other strategies in place. Also the inner area strategy in Italy, also working very much with digital transition. So of course we need funding, and digitalization, smart transition is an integrative approach. So we don't have dedicated funding for this development. Jan also mentioned the CAP policies. And of course, I think there are a lot of opportunities to get funding in kind of integrating our wishes and thoughts into the CAP policy at the right moment. Then, of course, we also need room for innovation and experimentation. I told you that smart villages approaches are very participatory approaches. So at the beginning, you don't know exactly what is perhaps the outcome. You are working with many stakeholders, you are developing something, and it might be different of what you have planned perhaps in the beginning. So there must be containers, initiatives that allow this kind of experimentation. The ARPAF projects, for example, there was this kind of potential to foster, to finance kind of these integrative approaches. So we need more of them, and I would say also Horizon is a good vehicle to experiment and to foster innovation. So further on, of course, networking is very important, and exchanging of within different stakeholders, and there we also worked in the Smart Villages project with regional stakeholder groups involving business, academia, policy levels, and also, of course, citizens. And this was very fruitful to have this exchange also with entrepreneurs. We heard it also before in the broadband sector. We have 90% of the investments are coming from the private sector. So we need there a good exchange with the private sector to bring digitalization forward, bring a smart transition forward. Then also the communication, of course, is very important. Digitalization is also a very ideal mean, I would say, to transfer, to carry, to spread a modern image of mountainous areas, to really sell the mountains as an attractive place, especially in times of teleworking, remote working. You have the great landscape. You have a lot of attractivities on a spot, and combined with new technologies, this could be really a very nice opportunity, also for communication aspects. And then, of course, the infrastructures. Jan was mentioning and describing it to a very impressive, in a very impressive format. We have these, fortunately, these organizations, these networks. We could need even more, and I think we must have a keen eye on that there are enough funds for really put the base for these digital infrastructures. And of course, we also need the skills to enable people to use these technologies and these infrastructures in the right way. So this was a bit the lessons learned, what we took out of what we extracted from the Smart Villages project. And then one of the products was also the Smart Alps network we formed, where we want to have a continuous network of smart villages, smart regions, exchanging with each other, and also form a smart community in which we are do also lobbying for our cause, for the smart transition in rural areas. It's really worth it, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges the rural areas are facing at the moment after industrialization, mechanization of agriculture, etc. We have now the digital change, and we have to grab this opportunity, else there is the big the fear that the rural areas are even more lagging behind if we are not taking this opportunity. So this Smart Alps and the smart community is also a bit the starting point then afterwards for my colleague Jure Trillar, who will continue then talking about the Smart Communities project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. So, Jure, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paolo, and thank you, Peter, for introducing the smart villages, upon which the Smart Community project is building. And I have a few slides for you. And how can I switch the slides? I think just a few seconds. But let me introduce myself in between. I'm Jure Trillar, come from the opposite side of the Alps, from Slovenia, from the University of Ljubljana, and we are the coordinator of the Smart Community project, which is building on top of the previous Smart Villages project. Thus, we had to evolve the definition, the perception of what smart communities are. Of course, this is sort of still work in progress, but here you see the longer definition. We are working very hard to shorten it a bit. But some strengths the smart communities have, of course, it's their identity and their close-knit social fabric, which is, of course, the essence of the smart villages concept. And they want to take control of their future and use all the tools that are available to them, especially the digital tools. And of course, they are open to innovate and work holistically and live and work in the, let's say, carbon neutral and attractive workplaces, and of course, places to live in. And of course, these communities are, of course, inclusive. So this digitalization results is intended for everybody, not just the, let's say, more digitally skilled and so on. This, I think, it's quite an important point to stress out. The Smart Community project works on different levels. And of course, the first one on the policy level, the project fosters a strong link with the Smart Alps network within the Action Group 5, sustaining the transnational concept of network of smart rural areas with a common, smarter, digital and greener future, vision for their communities. As well, we are developing the closer links with the AG9 for the transition in energy to embody these changes in perception and practice, of course. Thus, we have created a network of dedicated test areas where the more advanced test areas, named lighthouse test areas, will inspire and work with less advanced, so-called follower test areas. All pilot areas will be interconnected by an online platform. Of course, the primary objective for this platform is networking, knowledge exchange, good practices exchange, and advice between digitally more advanced regions and the regions that have taken on this journey to become as successful and see the results that others before them have already achieved. With this new smartness and also existing tools from the smart villages, smartness assessment and other tools. And an important component of this will be display of the collected data in all of these pilot areas, sensor or otherwise to be included in this online platform. Well, we are very proud on all of our pilots that are working hard towards this smart transition, and they're very diverse, and I would like to just briefly present each of them. And for example, in Valle d'Aosta is exploring the community and cultural heritage and connected spaces for digital nomads and in their test areas. In Lower Austria, the INU, Energy and Environment Agency, is spreading awareness and information on climate change with traveling exhibition and a lecture campaign. ADRETS, association in Sub-Alpine France, is developing an online mobility platform and at the same time providing a support network for elderly people's accommodation. In Linzer Valley, the Tyrolean Regional Agency is building a sensor network in public buildings to monitor environmental parameters for greater energy efficiency. And in Slovenia's Pomurje and Podravje region, ITC Murska Sobota develops and strengthens traceability, in short, local food supply chains using blockchain technology. Lucerne West region, Swiss partners are trying to influence the mobility habits of visitors to tourist attractions in order to decongest these individual points of interest in the face of the heavy traffic that results from these visitors. And our dear German partners from Bavaria are developing a range of solutions to better engage citizens and visitors in their localities. And that includes also mobile apps for citizen engagement with municipal institutions, and also a range of offers a range of municipality-related transactions that can be carried out, and other interesting solutions. So, for smart community, there was also some space for innovation, and this connecting these communities is happening on lots of levels that we presented, but also this interconnectedness can come on the, let's say, the data level, and thus introducing new concepts and advanced digital tools for wider use in the rural environments poses a number of challenges. And apart from the most obvious ones, of course, is that this data ecosystems needs to be built and strengthened, and the data is not lying all around us. One of the key challenges of digitalization is, of course, lack of advanced digital skills in these areas, especially for the, let's say, the operators, the overseers of these systems in terms of the, let's say, the municipality level and the infrastructure level. And in this context of smart community project, we intend to experiment to overcome this gap by evolving this role of so-called data steward. We're searching for a, let's say, term that translates better to all the languages for the countries involved. But it is an established concept in European data initiatives, and we see this role as someone who is deeply rooted and embedded in local environment and oversees the local sensors and digital infrastructures and can interpret digital challenges and concepts to the local environment, and at the same time able to translate the needs of the local environment to the regional, national research policy institutions. And of course, all this comes with let's say, recognition that the value of the data ecosystem may not be very evident today, but it's important for the future development, and especially to use this data analysis to develop new solutions for these smart communities that will of course be based on this data, but to also provide better informed decisions for the future, while also taking care of the data autonomy, not to allow too much data colonization from, let's say, outside global providers. So yes, that was sort of a brief introduction for the project, and Paolo, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jure, also to highlight the relevance of data ecosystem, which is very important to have a scientific approach. And Gianluca, you also come from a university, from a scientific institution. We kept in touch during the pandemic crisis. We get a lot of insight about new services. And could you give us some of you from your experience and how More Than a Village project that you are now following aims to support this process? Thank you, Gianluca.
Thank you very much, Paolo. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Perfectly.
Yeah, I can see you and nodding. It's a pity I could not join you in the beautiful location of the Skyway, but I had previous teaching commitments, unfortunately. So yes, Paolo, we did keep in touch during the pandemic, which was, from the point of view of smart development, a pivotal point, because we discovered how important it was to have some tools, some medium, in order to be connected with the rest of the world and to be able to make to make everything work, despite the fact that we could not move from our places. Let me just briefly share my screen and start my presentation regarding a project which is called More Than a Village, and it is a new project. It started on the 1st of April 2023, was financed under the first new call of the Interreg Central Europe funding. And it is our way to start and spread the smart villages concept also to Central Europe. This is the partnership of More Than a Village. Sometimes we use the acronym MTAV. The lead partner comes from Poland, from a very rural part of Poland in the northeasternmost corner of the country. We have partners from Poland too, from Szczecin on the Baltic coast. We have partners from Hungary, the Hajdú-Bihar county government. Partners from Slovenia, ITC, Innovation Technology Cluster Murska Sobota. From Croatia, namely the Institute for Development International Relations in Zagreb and the city of Buzet in Istria. There is ourselves, and also a partner from Liguria, used to be the lag of the Genoese Apennines. It's been substituted by ANCI Liguria. So what do we do in the More Than a Village project, and what is the general objective? Well, I could say that the general objective of More Than a Village is an economic one. Rural and mountain areas are, of course, subjected to depopulation, to lack of services, to the flight of young populations, and so they become more and more, well, I should say, less and less attractive for jobs and also for services to the local populations. In More Than a Village, we would like to test and develop different models of smart villages in Central Europe, which sometimes lags a bit behind also with respect to the Alps in terms of attractiveness for their rural and mountain areas. We would like to increase such attractiveness and to create favorable conditions for local businesses. Also, one of the most ambitious aims of the project is actually to create new jobs. Even stabilize rural populations, rural and mountain populations that we could also try and use interchangeably, and to strengthen the economic resilience of non-urban areas in Poland, Croatia, Hungary, Slovenia, and Italy. The project will probably, we hope so, increase the potential of rural regions in the Central Europe area and making use of the local strengths, to expand existing and developing new economic activities with the use of ICT. The project outputs, I mean, the project has started 6 months ago, and we are working quite well in the beginning and the initial phase of the project. The outputs, the expected ones, are a joint strategy on smart village transition, followed by action plans for the selected territories. We are starting to work in 3 main pilot actions, 3 main families of pilot actions, consisting of testing different smart villages modalities in different countries. And we want also to create joint solutions to be applied in rural areas in the interested countries all over Central Europe and beyond. Also, since the project Smart Community was presented, the project Horizon Smart Era will also start on the 1st of January. We would like to create effective links between Modena Village and the Central Europe rationale, 2 other projects dedicated to smart rural development, namely Alpine Space Smart Community and Horizon Smart Era. And of course, we would like also to create possibly effective links with the macro-regional strategies that insist on the area that is also occupied by the countries of our Modena Village project. We have divided our project into 3 working packages, neatly divided year by year. The first one is called Building, in which we are finalizing the construction of a joint approach and strategy for making Central Europe villages smarter. As an output, we will have strategies and action plans. We will test the strategy and the joint approach in pilot actions. We will discuss the pilot actions in a moment, from strategies to actions, and then we will roll out tools and territorial rollout in general, also disseminating and spreading our hopefully good practices to the rest of the countries in which we are working. The pilots in the different areas are, in my opinion, quite interesting. They're mostly economic, because of course it doesn't come as a surprise to anyone that the main preoccupation of local areas, of rural areas, is to keep the economy lively, interesting, possibly attractive, and mostly attractive for the population that already lives there, re-attractive in order to maybe re-attract people who left, but also attractive for newcomers, new mountaineers, new rural people. The first family of pilots are called Business Support and Digitalization, Smart Villages pilots. They will be tested in South Warmia, northeastern Poland, and in Hungary, in Hajdú-Bihar County. The second family of pilots will be tested in Liguria, in Italy, and it's mostly dedicated to smart tourism, how to improve, how to enhance the tourist sector of the inland of the province of Genoa. And the third pilot regards another of the pivots of the village agriculture, which is agriculture, mostly developed in Slovenia and Croatia, an innovation system for the reduction of food loss in Murska Sobota, and a virtual agri-food web platform in Buzet, Croatia. We are well advanced in rolling out these activities, mostly because we have managed to involve loads of local stakeholders. Any type of transition, any type of smart transition cannot be imposed by academia or by just the central power in each of the states, but must be owned by the local population. And if a smart transition is, we would like a smart transition to succeed, then it must be owned by the local population. Our way to approach this is to create regional stakeholder groups in all the local areas. And the regional stakeholder groups are the key for the local population to own the process of their own smart transition and possibly to pass it to the rest of the population. That's a very quick introduction to the project. So thank you very much for listening to me. There are a couple of links in which we can learn a bit more about what we are doing in Central Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. Thank you for underlining the fact that no one solution fits all. You already did it in your speech, Jan, and also to focus on the economic sustainability of the framework of a smart approach, because we can also love a solution, but it has to be sustainable to produce an economic impact and strain the economic relevance. Livia, thank you for joining us. I think that you could go deeper on this, our thinking. Desire H 2020 project has crossed the Alps as more than a village and put together all this experience from different countries and regulation. Could you tell us more about the core of the project and your experience, your concrete experience as University of Pisa?
Yes, thanks.
Beautiful background.
It's a farm. Sometimes I go in the field. So, okay. So basically, yeah, I thank you for the invitation, and I'm also sorry of not being there. I'm really jealous that you are all there. And yes, I'm part of the University of Pisa Agricultural Economics Group, and we have an experience on rural development. And since 2019, with the H2020 Desira project that was coordinated by University of Pisa, we start working on the issue, concretely on the issue of digitalization and digital transformation in rural areas. And basically, the aim of the project was to assess the socioeconomic impacts of digitalization in agriculture, forestry, and rural areas. So yeah, I'm going to present you some of the lessons learned from these projects. So the aim of the CIRA is to improve the capacity of society to respond to the challenges, the opportunity of digitalization in rural areas, and mountain areas are part of that. And we work in 20 living labs in European areas, assessing the past, current, and future socioeconomic impact of ICT-related innovation. That means that we experience that with local actors, if you are able to work and to make them thinking about what is their actual use of digitalization, you will find a lot of tools they're already using. If you ask them in general, they say, no, we're not using anything. But if you go deeply and try to analyze the system and what exactly they're using for their personal life, but also for their businesses, you can find a lot of technology, and that's increase their skills and their personal confidence on discussing this issue, because they always feel they're not in line with that. So we work at local level with this aim. And then we also had a rural digitalization forum at European level to discuss with experts about this topic. One of the output of the CIRA was a declaration that you can find online with some policy recommendation. Basically, in the CIRA, the digitalization is considered as a process of introducing digital tools to create new socio-technical context in which human activities are performed. That means that the introduction of a technology changes the way people interact and people behave. So public investments are needed to address this process in each context, which, as already said, is not one solution fit all. And to observe the emergent effect that maybe only become clear once the technology is already in the place. So it's not always possible to have an ex-ante impact assessment for this type of technology, but we need to observe also what happened in different contexts once the technology are included. It is a strategic priority of European Union for the policy spot 2020, as you already said. It's part of many policies, the CAP post 2020, European Green Deals, European Circular Economy Action Plan, and whatever, and digital strategy. So in this process, what we feel it's really important is to consider the needs of rural communities and how digitalization can support the ongoing local development processes, considering the local specificities. And I think that has been said a lot about the smart village approach. So basically what we did in the CIRA, we went to 20 different communities and tried to ask them how to use digital technologies in their context. So we have context-sensitive findings on digitalization in agriculture, forestry, and rural areas, which are based on the analysis of past and present use of digital technology in each of the contexts. We consider winners and losers. So the aim of the CIRA was also to consider what are the risks of digital transformation, not only the opportunities, because sometimes there are also risks of excluding actors from some processes and actors that can be damaged by this. And so try to understand in each context which are the actors that risk to be losers of this process. And then another work that we did was to work on alternative digital scenarios. It was interesting that at the beginning, the idea was to have bad and good scenarios, but then we realized that it's not always like that. Again, it's not easy to say what is bad and what is good. It depends for whom and in which context. So basically, sometimes we had alternative scenario depending on different condition for a similar area. So I'm focusing on living labs that have been developed in Greece, Italy, Spain, France, Poland, Germany, Scotland, and Latvia that work a lot on rural, more marginal areas, mountain areas, and rural areas, more than intensive agriculture. So it's even if the findings are context sensitive, we will put the finding of all those living labs together. We're working on a paper on that, and we also realized that it's possible to use them to inspire possible application of digital technologies in all rural context. So it's true that they are context specific, but it's also true that they can inspire other people and other communities to apply digital technologies. So we find a kind of a palette of digital solutions that perform complementary function for rural areas. This is just an idea of the pathway of sustainable digitalization developed. The two main issue and areas of activities are the e-governance and the agricultural sector. In terms of e-governance, it means that using digitalization for increasing the participation of citizens and communities into policies is something that is not always the first things that come into people's mind when they talk about digitalization, but it's something that's really relevant for rural areas. We have a case in Spain that work on wildfire, using a lot of sensor monitors and artificial intelligence to manage fire evolution during the wildfires and improve the way of responding to that, reducing damage. We had a case in Italy in which we work on reducing hydrogeological risk. It means that we work to improve the efficiency of land management through the participation of farmers in mountain areas in order to manage the land and identify where is needed to remove obstacles from a water course or something like that. We had an experience in Poland where there was a use of digitalization for transparency of land planning processes. So again, sharing maps and GIS technologies to local population in order to make them aware of what is the planning of the area and manage spatial conflict among rural users. In Germany, they work on enhancing social cohesion through using apps for sharing events and increasing local identification and accessibility of communication among different age groups. They work with elder people as well to involve them through digital technologies. And concerning the agricultural sector, we have some cases that are not exactly the classical precision agriculture or 4.0 farming, but they are anyway contributing to support farmers in rural areas. So in Greece, we had an experience of farmers that improved their position in the value chain, moving from tobacco to leek production. So they changed the production market in order to go out of a monopoly that didn't give them a lot of bargaining power, thanks to the use of digital support tools that allow them to change the crops. Then we have an experience in Latvia about farmers that engage directly with consumers. It was already mentioned a lot of cases I saw in the other project about agriculture and short food supply chain, so connecting consumer and farmer. Then we had in Scotland an example of digitalization used to monitor the animal health at individual level, that it's also something that improved the quality of the production, even for pasture and extensive farming that sometimes is going lost. And finally, the improvement in general in France about technical advice through the use of digital tools, because the technical advice can arrive to all farmers. So those are some of the cases in which we worked. And just to give some conclusion, the idea is that really digital technology can contribute to create social and cultural capital in rural areas, facing the population inequality, if there are some conditions that taken into consideration. So the use of a co-design approach of the technology, that means that it's not the IT sector developing something from a table and deciding, oh, what's needed by the farmers and then going and selling it to them. but it's all a social process of involving actors, starting improving their skills and involving them in the discussion and saying the needs. I think it was said even before me from the conference in Spain that was the first thing to emerge. So consider the local needs of communities. And then having a deep observation of digital technologies, not only ex ante, but also once they are into the society. So there will be a need of a continuous assessment of the impact of those technologies, because there will be an expected effect, negative or positive, of digitalization that can emerge once something happens into the society. So again, there is a need to address this process and have policy in it. We cannot let it only to the market and the private sector. That's more or less the idea, or this is summarizing what I already said, so I'm going to touch it. So this is the final message from the CIRA project. So technology development can and should be steered, as already said. Sustainable digitalization needs ad hoc strategies for rural areas, and they should be coordinated with other rural policies. So I think that's something really, really relevant, but increasing the skill of farmers in participating and local community in participating in this process is really relevant. Thanks.
Thank you, Livia. Well, Livia and Gianluca told us something about the involvement of companies on the digitalization process. I will ask you, Jan, as you know, the Digital Decade report, the indicators was fine. They were increasing, but not as fast as it should be. In your opinion, what is the key factor to increase the SME's digital intensity?
Again, I don't think I have a silver bullet to answer this, but I think this goes, I always start with nothing can happen without the connectivity. Everything else builds on that. So, but this being given, because I think I spoke already long enough about this, but the next thing I think is skills. The infrastructure is the enabling factor, but the driver, what will actually make that the infrastructure is used, that digitization actually brings benefits, etc., is skills. It's the capability of the users to engage and benefit from this. And again, in Siguenza at the forum, there was a lot of discussion on this, because of course in all our countries, I'm sure in Italy, I don't know, but I'm sure that there are courses provided by government to help entrepreneurs and etc. with digital skills. We have it in Germany, in Austria, and I'm sure it exists in Slovenia. But the feedback we received is that, again, one size fits all is not what we need. We need maybe very specific training for if you are a livestock farmer, your digital skills, you still need digital skills, but they're very different than if you are into forestry industry. And they're very different than if you are into tourism and HoReCa industry. You need digital skills, but you don't need the same. So therefore, I think this offer of enhancing digital skills also needs to adapt to the needs, and therefore to listen to the local stakeholders. And therefore I agree 100% again with what Livia was saying. Listen to what the users need. And if I may just add one thing, because I know the Desira project since a long time, and I just wanted to add something that Livia didn't present, but one of the first outcomes of the Desira project, the final outcome now, because the project I think just concluded an important phase, was this recommendation, this roadmap. But at the very beginning, they did a study or projection of what is the impact of connectivity in rural areas. And the outcome was that a 10% increase of broadband penetration can lead to 1 to 1.5% increase of GDP. So I love Desira for this. I've been citing Desira many, many times in my presentation. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan. Thank you for focusing on the skills of the private sector, which is an enabling private sector we were talking for long for this afternoon. And Peter, what is the role of the private sector in the smart village approach?
Yeah, actually, Actually, as I mentioned before, in the Smart Villages project, we formed regional stakeholder groups where entrepreneurs were also a part of the group. And in very many cases, we are very much depending on service providers, the collaboration with service providers. They know their business, they have solutions at hand. And yeah, as it was already mentioned, in less densely populated areas, the benefit for entrepreneurs might be smaller, but with the help of new technologies and new forms of organization, I think, or we also showed that we have also proved that in the project Smart Villages, that there are possibilities to make also digital service provision rentable beneficiary for everybody in rural areas. So these new technologies, they will really open new business cases, and they're really an opportunity for also for entrepreneurs in rural areas. So these regional stakeholder groups were really a success, and they led to good and very practical ideas and projects. And the Smart Era project has already been mentioned. We are overtaking this idea, and we have integrated private companies, partners from the private sector in our partnership in order to integrate an entrepreneurial spirit into the project. And the Smart Era project is actually also a trial to expand the Smart Villages approach beyond the Alpine space, and really spread it all over Europe with partners from all over Europe. Gianluca mentioned already that we will start beginning of January 2024. It's just the larger brother of the Smart Villages project. And yes, entrepreneurs, companies, private sector companies are playing a major role also in this project.
Thank you very much, Peter. And you mentioned the service providers. 5G for Smart Communities initiative, which is fostered by the European Commission, goes in this direction. And this one dimension of the smart community approach. Jure, what emerged from your speech is the multi-dimensional approach, and how this multiply the awareness the results. How relevant is this on your experience?
Well, of course it's relevant, but to, let's say, illustrate this work on Smart Communities project, which is based on, let's say, multi-dimensional approach. There are, let's say, degrees of multidimensionality here. I hope I won't be too abstract, but just to illustrate how to, let's say, multiply awareness and results. I like to illustrate the, let's say, the triangle of research, policy, and practice. And one cannot function without the other, and they support each other. Of course, because research is important to foster knowledge and innovative concepts that need to be experimented on in practice. And of course, we have to include the spectrum from social sciences and humanities, also to technical and technological knowledge. And in practice, it is important to make an impact on the ground level through bottom-up approaches, through regional stakeholder groups, to benefit citizens for their, let's say, local needs, and also to test our research ambitions in the end, in this practical premise. And this means assessing, addressing these multiple smart dimensions, let it be from smart governance, living environment, economy, smart mobility, that make the lives of people within these functional territories better. And last but not least, of course, that the policy part is to formulate these evidence-based policy interventions for preventing these communities from continuously falling behind, and also to make longer lasting impacts than just our projects that are sort of shorter, 1 to, let's say, 3 years, but we want to make impact that's longer than that. But of course, nevertheless, this means taking into account these multiple top-level EU strategies, let's say, whether it be from EU strategy from Alpine region, EU Green Deal, Territorial Agenda 2030, Europe Fit for Digital Age, other strategies, for example, the new AI Act, the Digital Service Act, EU data strategy, and so on. This can be a bit, it looks like to be a bit overwhelming, but it can provide great open space for innovation and impact to be made on our, let's say, alpine communities and regions.
Thank you, Jure. So multiple policy approach, multiple business sectors. But I'm curious about the bottom-up approach. And Gianluca, you were in your pilot actions, there were silver economy. I'm really curious to know how do you engage other people in bottom-up approach, or what is your idea to do it?
Yes, Paolo, thank you. It is indeed a challenge to actually involve and include elderly people from local rural communities in reflecting with us towards a smart transition of their area. Most of all, it sounds a bit obvious, you need to speak their language, which doesn't just mean from a linguistic point of view, but you need to understand where they come from, what their main worries are. Most of the time, as regards digital technologies, there is a lot of digital anxiety among elderly people especially, and digital learned helplessness. So people would say to you, I will never be able to do that. I will never be able to understand that. I will never be able to know how to use a smartphone or an app or a computer. So first of all, you need to overcome this, and you do so by speaking their own language, by involving local leaders, respecting members of the community, so they do not feel the idea that this is a change imposed on them from forces beyond their understanding or beyond their territory. And secondly, and this is what happened in our pilot area in Haidu, Bihar, we are not aiming at making all elderly people in the area equally digitally literate. There will be people who are not interested in that. But those people who are not interested in learning more about these digital technologies need to have a person, a place where to go when they need a digital service. So if they will not be able to become themselves fully digitally literate, at least they need to have a place, possibly in the nearby, in the neighborhood, not too far away, in which they can find help and support from that. And something we have actually witnessed is that after the first 3 or 4 people become more digitally literate, then the digital anxiety decreases significantly. And those very people become ambassadors for change among their peers, which is quite nice to see. And we've seen it in the Aosta Valley, for example, but also we started to see this in Hungary in our silver economy pilot.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. Thank you also for this interesting psychological approach that you mentioned. That is quite relevant when you tackle different business sector, like Livia, you did with farmers. And in few words, what is the key to involve them, and what is the priority to foster this digital transformation in rural economy?
Well, it's always an issue about involving farmers, and seems that they don't want to give us their data and whatever, but it's not exactly like that. So the first issue is really to work with data for farmers and facilitate to them data entry at farm level in order to reduce the bureaucracy. They often have to give the same data to different authorities in different for fiscal reasons, for different policies, for agricultural policies, for whatever. So facilitating the data entry will increase the data from farmers that can be used also in the future for artificial intelligence and whatever. So that's one aspect. And the other aspect, which I think it's really relevant, it's also to start understanding how to include farmers' knowledge into the artificial intelligence tools. Because if we start having digital tools, digital support tools that are not only based on data and models from the science, but also integrate farmers' knowledge and their capacity, and we are not losing our old farmers' traditional knowledge. That is something that is really precious, and we should use the digital technology in order to keep them in our field for new farmers for the future.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Livia, and for this changing of view from how to put intelligence, artificial intelligence inside the farmer's world. Okay, and because we have also to change our way to see the problem sometimes. So thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists to be here today. Thank you all for joining us in Courmayeur and to be in online. We saw no questions, so I think we are going to close this workshop. Jan, sorry?
If I may, one more comment. Sorry, Paul, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so it's kind of because you mentioned it very briefly.
1 minute. Sorry.
1 minute. Just a call to action. Paolo mentioned it very briefly. There is actually a specific call, an EU-funded project called 5G Smart Communities. It has the same name as your project, of course, but it's a dedicated budget line. The call will open in the next 2 weeks, and it's 5G for smart communities. It's the third call. In the first 2 calls, as far as I know, there was no specific mountain project. There were projects for ports, projects for hospitals, but they were generally from big cities like Palermo, Frankfurt, etc. As far as I know, there's not yet the 5G smart rural mountain project. So this is your opportunity. It's between 1 and 4 million euro EU prize to deploy 5G use cases for smart communities. And they say specifically smart communities, so that, like you, not cities, it can be a rural community. Voilà. So sorry, Paul.
Thank you, Jan. So you can see on there is a short break in downstairs, yeah. And so you can be back later at 4 p.m. for the workshop on remote working and digital skills, and in the room cinema for the other workshop, best practice and digital tools for energy transition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Leonora, mi sente?
Eleonora, ci senti?
Sì.
Ok, perfetto.
Ok, grazie.
Iniziamo.
A voi.
Tra poco iniziamo la sessione. La pausa è andata un pochettino più lunga del solito.
Fai tu, inizia. Alessio, ci dici tu quando iniziare? Cioè iniziamo? O ci dici tu quando? Of course. Ok, fai tu. Mi sa che è meglio che lo fai tu. Okay, good afternoon, and welcome in the second workshops. I remember to all connected online people to connect to different breakout rooms. Here is the second workshop on remote working and digital skills for new jobs. The other in other breakout rooms is in the second breakout rooms about best practice and digital tools for energy transition, but in another room. Okay, we can start. I give the
the voice to Mauro Casotto from Trentino Sviluppo.
Thank you, Rocco. Good afternoon, and I am Mauro Casotto. I'm co-leader of Action Group 3, and I'm pleased to take the greetings of all the Action Group 3 and of our leader, that is Giuliana Cristoforetti. The title of the workshop, Remote Working and Digital Skills for New Mountain Jobs, represent the merging point of the work of our Action Group, number 3 and number 5. As you know, Action Group 5 is focused on connectivity and accessibility, and Action Group 3 is focused on mountain jobs, labor market, education and training. Starting from different perspectives, the two groups arrive in a meeting point that is the workshop of tomorrow and the activity that are, of course, enabled by digitalization, information technology, and artificial intelligence. I'd like to give you a brief description of the activity of Action Group 3. In the past 3 years, we worked a lot on dual training and on digital and soft skills. Of course, everything regards to the mountain activity, to the mountain shops, like timber, forestry, agriculture, agri-food, and also, of course, tourism. Last year, we also signed an agreement that define how the dual training, a common way of doing dual training, and also to recognize among the regions the title of dual training. We also conducted an important research with the Institute of Economic and Social Research of Friuli Venezia Giulia about soft skills and digital skills for alpine jobs. In the next 3 years, our cross-cutting priorities will be on, of course, the experimentation of dual training and implementation of digital skills and soft skills. Now we have the possibility with this workshop to hear from our panelists how the technology of information technology, of artificial intelligence, and digitalization can improve our quality of life in the valley, in the mountains, and the objectives, of course, of these activities and this project is to keep and to maintain people working and living in our periphery, of course, not only in the big cities of our mountains. Of course, all these activities are addressed to young people, but also to less young people. You can think, of course, at the services of the public administration, also to the services of the sanitary system that are very important, especially for less young people. So I give the floor to Rocco that will manage the workshop, and then to the panelists.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for being here. Okay, we try to understand different subjects, different institutions that are organizing and developing projects and innovations in remote working and digital skills for new mountain jobs. So we try to organize a 2-round table. We start from online connected Maria Chiara Cattaneo. Is perfect, okay. Okay, I leave it about 6 minutes for your answer, because she have a limited time. So, okay, to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I try to share a couple of slides I prepare for this workshop. I'm sorry not to be able to be there this afternoon in presence, but these are also the kickstart days of the Mountain 4.0 Future Alps project, which I want to tell you a little bit more about, as it's specific with the use of technology and the role of change as an opportunity and a game changer. The project deals with, oops, we are too far. The project is about participatory dialogue with young students and the communities and stakeholders. So it's young people and less young people. It's a project with my university in Milan and especially with Società Economica Valtellinese, which is a think tank focusing on community-based quality development for alpine areas. So the slides were going too fast, but we're meant to say basically that we are immersed in a world of rapid change, as we know, and change can mean challenges, but can also mean opportunities, also for thought remote areas, and global megatrends have local impact. We know about climate change, technology revolution, social, economic, and political changes, and in terms of technology, this participatory dialogue that we've tried to foster year after year, this last year since 2017, has been helped also by a game changer, which has been COVID, because it has also been an accelerator in terms of the possibility to use technology for us and putting together students from across the Alps. So the question has been not only, of course, to use technology by itself, but to use technology as an enabling tool to answer new questions. And basically, we put together young people and communities to answer new big questions, like how to embrace change to envision possible futures. So, for example, how to connect innovation and tradition, how to look at the changing needs of an aging society, how to face climate change in the mountains, how to look at tourism, which changes because the tourist changes and the tourist now looks for different experiences in the destination that they look for and that they choose to visit. So many questions, many solutions that can be built together, putting together students and stakeholders, because we've asked the students to work on future scenarios, develop possible solutions, send us postcards from the future, like postcards from 2040, designing possible scenarios to discuss with stakeholders and to set a roadmap to look at that possible future and try to make it desirable and reachable. And basically, Mountain 4.0 Future Alps also tries to connect communities and institutions. It is a bottom-up, but also wants to work, of course, with the institution because communities and institutions reflect one the other. So basically, we've been working since 2017 to try and make mountain a key player across the Italian Alps, because mountain has previously been considered marginal, but of course we all agree that it is not, and that can be a key player if we look at change as an opportunity. Here you can see what we've done, the sort of the story of our activities across 5 years, since 2017 till last year, across the Alps, starting from the Valtellina Valley, enlarging to the Italian Alps, from Piedmont to Friuli, and last year in bilateral dialogues between Valtellina and Trentino, all in all involving more than 1,000 students and discussing across the Alps with stakeholders and communities. This year, we are working from Valle d'Aosta to Friuli with Valtellina and Trentino, so 4 different territories with the topic of sustainable development and tourism. More than 300 students are involved to look at business ideas to face new challenges. Challenges are faced, examples are given, contributions are provided by stakeholders and experts, but students across different schools, across different territories are asked to build together new business ideas. It's like a flower, but they are asked to consider tourist trends, environment, so the impact of their new solutions with a view to economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and also social sustainability, so the impact on people. Technology, of course, is key when we look at their new solutions for alpine development and the relationship with local communities. So the project looks at new solutions to be designed together. So there's no right or wrong. There's no what has to be, but there is what can be as it is designed by the community, focusing on what the decision makers of tomorrow think. In that sense, the project helps develop new skills, drives towards new solutions, and also makes arise new questions. In terms of new skills, we think that through this initiative that has enlarged and has been developed thanks to partnership across the Alps, thanks to the support of many different stakeholders, we work on different skills. Digital skills, of course, because we use technology, we work in a hybrid way in schools, in community locations, but also across different territories. And we meet at some point, but we meet virtually in other occasions to work together in these labs. We also foster entrepreneurial skills to build these business ideas, and also sustainability skills, as well as soft skills like communication, collaboration, creative thinking in terms of new ideas to be developed and to work on, to face change and to find opportunities. So there are skills, but there are also questions that arise. Like yesterday, we were in Aosta with more than 100 students, and tomorrow we'll be with other 200 students in Morvegno. Yesterday, we asked the students, after many contributions taken by entrepreneurs and stakeholders, to ask their powerful questions. And they asked many different questions looking at the role of technology, like, for example, how to integrate technology and the enhancing of identity, how to go global without problems of connectivity, how to use technology without losing the impact on people. So how to connect these different issues together. So not technology by itself, but technology as an enabler, putting and keeping people at the center. So we think that this is very important if we look at the development of new ways of looking at Alpine future with the key decision makers of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Chiara Cattaneo. Thank you very much. Well, okay, see you the next time. And now, welcome to Maria Grazia Monaci and Angelo Benozzo. And the question for you is, for the first round, what is your organization and what is it doing about remote working and digital skills for new mountain jobs?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm here to represent my institution, the University of Valle d'Aosta. It's not only because of its geographical collocation, the region of Valle d'Aosta, but also for its nature. It's a regional university, quite different from the normal state of the university in Italy, state university. So for both these reasons, our university has strong link with the territory. So we have many different projects now running in a connection with the territory. So mountains, tourism, and of course, digital innovation. So I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice among the project, and I tried to select the most connected to the topic of this afternoon conference. Actually, it was difficult. For example, we have a project now with also involving Skyway to digitally monitoring the tourist trend. But anyway, I selected others. So I'm going to necessarily quickly, to present you two of the projects, and my colleague is going to present the next one. So the first one is media. You can move already to the next slide. Media, I try to translate, is emotional digital advanced museum. It's a project involving MAV, il Museo dell'Artigianato Valdostano, so is a man craftsmanship museum. And what we have done in this project. Well, in the last years, in the last decades, museum and exhibition have greatly benefit from the advances in digital technology. So many museums are trying to add a complementary digital virtual reality experience to the traditional visit. So we have prepared a 3D visual image of most of the objects, of the handcraft object of the museum. The first reason is to enrich the catalog, of course. So we have a catalog, a new catalog on the platform with hypertext, the context of the image without the context or with the context. But second, with an app, also to create a personalized experience of the user, of the visitor to the museum. So through the app, they can choose their own personalized visit. In addition to this part, which is a kind of attempt to enrich the cultural heritage of the valley, so the part of the handcraft is quite important in the valley. One other reason is to measure, to compare the virtual experience to the real experience. So with an experiment, a real experiment is a research project. We have measured in 95 participant visitors of the museum with electroencephalograph helmets the emotional reaction to the real experience and to the virtual experience, measuring 3 dimensions of emotional valence, arousal, and engagement. 1 minute, so go to the next one. And the next project is, of course, is coming, is, let's say, more important from the economical point of view. It has been funded by PNR, the Resistance and Resilience National Plan. The name is not coming on the slide. The name is NODES. Exactly, yeah. NODES is the meaning is Nord-Ovest, Northwest, Digital and Sustainable. Is a large project involving 7 universities in the northwest of Italy. So I'm not going, no time. So we have about 7 universities. What is most important is, of course, it's a large amount of money. What is most important, the Aosta Valley University is the leader of Spoke 4 in the sometimes strange terminology of PNRR, the hub and spoke system. So we have 7 spokes, and Aosta University is leading the Spoke 4. Just the title is enough to give you an idea. Digital innovation toward sustainable mountains. It's quite a good quantity of money, 8 million euros for the Spoke. And you find the other partner of the local partner of the university. And again, with a strange terminology of PNRR, 4 flags, key aspects. The first one is advancing digital and sustainable mountain areas, enhancing the digitalization and eco-friendliness of water and energy management. So we could go also to another seminar of this afternoon. Promoting teleworking for increased efficiency and improved quality of life, and fostering public engagement to stimulate local growth. A large part of the project is education and courses.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next present. Welcome to Claudia Zolla. And the same question. Is this okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Same question. What is your organization and what is it doing about the topic?
Yeah, so good afternoon. I work for the Unité des Communes Grand Paradis, which is a very long name for a very small public entity, actually. We focused on the previous step, which, I mean, we didn't work on giving digital skills for new jobs, but we were working on giving digital skills to people to stay in mountains areas, because we mustn't forget that if we want to keep mountainous areas alive, then we have to keep people in there and then to attract new people. So the project we worked on, I don't know if we can go on the next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Credo sia il telecomando. Yeah, okay. So, as I said, we were funded by the LAG Aosta Valley, which is the local action group. And thanks to this funding, we launched this service in November. And the aim was simply helping people with acquiring digital skills to cope with administrative services. The Unité, like all the public entities, is now involved in the process of digitalization of administrative services. And this can be quite difficult for people. If you don't have digital skills, if you don't have your digital identity, if you don't know how to use technologies, then it's nearly impossible to do things with public administrations. So we launched this service last year in November. We had a promotional campaign and we involved the librarians and the libraries. We found a facilitator, so someone who went there in the libraries, and people could go there and ask for help and learn how to ask for their digital identity, for instance. After a few months, we had a meeting with all the stakeholders of the project. We had given a satisfaction questionnaire to the users, and then we realized that they really needed basis. So we started with digital literacy classes. And the result of these classes was also very good because they told us that they acquired finally digital skills and they were quite happy with these. The CEROI Plus, I forgot to tell you that it means social, economic, environmental return on investment. So we tried to understand what were all the benefits of the project. And the first one is a social benefit, which was quite amazing for us. But the libraries became, I could even say, a sort of meeting point where people could meet and learn something. So library attendance increased, book lending increased, and this was always a good thing, I think. And if we look forward, if we have a future approach, then I'm quite sure that we can also have economic and environmental benefits from this project. And that's all what we did.
Okay, thank you very much. Also to stay in time. Okay, thank you. And another voice from USALP, Youth Council, Leila Izart.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Leila Izart and I represent Switzerland in the USALP Youth Council. In short, for those who may not know, the Youth Council is a group of young people aged between 18 and 29, representing each of the Alpine regions active in USALP. We propose concrete actions and projects to the General Assembly and contribute to USALP priorities and policies, and of course take part in events in amazing locations like this one. The reason why I wanted to participate today is because I am part of the thematic group 1 in the Youth Council, focused on economic development. Last year, during the Italian presidency, we collaborated with AG2 to organize the Ready to Stay event in Milano. Some of you may have attended. For those who had not attended, the goal of the event was to host an open and public debate co-created with young citizens about the state of the art of the different policies and projects implemented by local governments to face the worrying trend of depopulation in the Alpine space and to explore possible common new solutions at a macro-regional level. The conference aimed to represent an opportunity to design concrete policy orientations to enhance youth leadership and accountability as a driver for competitiveness and as a key factor to struggle with the depopulation of the Alpine area. Today, my thematic group 2 my thematic group 1 states 2 priorities in our position paper for the year 2023-2024 that I think speak perfectly to our workshop today. First of all, we would like to work on fitting the education system in the Alpine regions to the demands of the Alpine labour market. Secondly, we hope to participate in projects to improve the attractiveness of the Alps for students and young professionals. In the continuity of the successful event in Milano last year, We look forward to more opportunities for collaboration with AGs 1, 2, 3, and 5. We were especially inspired by AG3's work plan, as well as AG5's cross-cutting priority about promoting digitalization. I have personally been inspired by the different speakers present today, and hope that today can launch a new season of working together.
Thank you very much. Okay, now from Connected People, Michele Barale.
Okay, good afternoon. I share my screen with my...
Perfect. Are you...
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, our connection is working. So...
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so perfect.
But
I am still not.
Maybe it's a few moments to see you. We can hear you well. But...
Okay. I'm sharing the screen, so I can start with this maybe. Okay.
Okay,
great.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm here. Thank you.
We hear you.
Super. So I am Michele Barale. Thank you for inviting me. I am a research fellow at the University of Milan. In the center is Unimont, the University of the Mountain, and we are located in among the mountains in Lombardy region, around northeast in comparison with Milan. The university deals mainly with agriculture and forestry management topics and projects, but also with territorial and mountain land projects with national and international influence. What the project I'm talking about this afternoon is the ARPAF co-working with children and elderly in the Alps. Is a project that is funded by ARPAF funds, Alpine Region Preparatory Action Funds, and is a short project led by the Chamber of Agriculture and Forestry of Slovenia, and has a duration of 1 year and a half. And the project focuses on co-working, mapping. The first aim is mapping all those co-working spaces, but also co-workation and co-work care that are located in the Alpine Arch, in the Alps area, and mainly in the rural and mountain areas. That's why we created a map with a couple of boundaries, the first with Alps area and the second with Alpine Convention area, in order to focus better on co-spaces. The aim of the project is to, first of all, reduce commuting in order to let the people to work in the mountains, and also to support families to match together family tasks and working tasks, in special case if they have children or elderly relatives. We built a map, and inside this map we first found all those spaces that are in all those co-working, co-workation and co-work spaces that are in the on the mountains in the Alpine region. And after, within a radius of 10 kilometers, we looked for also caregiving institution like childcare or elderly care institution, and environmental education centers that can provide facilities for children or sometimes also for elderly people. This is more or less the project we are working on.
Okay, thank you very much. Now from online, Noem Lechat.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will try to share my screen. Okay. So let me know if you see it.
From Andretz.
Yeah, is it working?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
So thank you very much. I'm Noémie Lechat, and I'm a project manager for the ADREA Association. And today, regarding the workshop, I wanted to have a focus on professional learning and how can access to learning be facilitated in rural mountain areas. Just before, I wanted to have a quick word on our association. Our association was founded more than 20 years ago with the aim of supporting local and regional stakeholders in the development of accessibility of their services of general interest. So a few years ago, we shared a common analysis that it was very difficult for people to access professional training in remote areas with problems that you all know, such as mobility or a lack of public transport. And many people, especially the young ones, were forced to leave the area to study elsewhere. So regarding the necessity of keeping the population in the area and develop its attractiveness, we developed a project called Lieux Apprenants et FOAD, so in English, co-learning places and digital learning. And the project was to develop e-learning in existing facilities such as France Service. In France, we have those places where we can realize our administrative formalities. And also in connected campus, it's remote campus from big universities. This project was supported by the Région Sud de Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, and it was during 2 years and also during COVID. So it put the topic of e-learning and remote learning at the agenda. So very shortly, the key actions of the project were through the creation of three co-learning spaces in 3 test areas, very rural areas, and with the service design approach. So we wanted to create an environment in those existing facilities to access learning and for the people to be able to follow e-learning classes in good conditions. We also work on helping trainers to change their approach, because we know that e-learning and teaching classes in presence and remotely is not the same job, and we need to support those trainers in this change. We also worked on supporting the e-learners, because as someone said it before, it's very difficult to use digital tools, and a lot of people are concerned with the problem of illiteracy. I think in France it's 13 million struggling with digital illiteracy. So we also had a focus on this topic. And we also created a multidisciplinary community with trainers, public authorities, learners, in order to develop some tools. You can see them on the left. And it was very prolific to have all those professionals and also learners around the table. And on the right side, you can see one of the places and the transformation we did. And I will speak about what we learned with this project a bit later.
Okay, thank you very much. We saw and heard about different initiatives involving high school students, university researchers, communities, through a library, through new place of learning, training programs everywhere. Really interesting. And assuming that more skills is better, more learning is better, but now is more challenging questions. What changes are you developing and measuring, maybe? Or what are the desirable scenarios, specific scenarios, are you working for? So the second round about the changes you causing or promoting, not only general improving, but changes and or desirable scenarios. Angelo Benozzo.
Thank you. Can we go back to the slides that my colleague presented. Okay, so I can change. Okay, I'm going to speak about this project, which is called Alps Satellites, and it is a small-scale project designed to investigate how to manage the transition. So we are speaking about changes, how to manage the transition to hybrid form of work in the Alps. 3 mountain areas are involved, the Unité de Communes Val d'Autun et Vincennes, the Pays du Grand Briançonnais, Queyras in France, and the municipality of Doren in Austria. Together with these 3 areas, there are also 3 universities, of course, Aosta Valley University, which is the leader of the project, and then also there is Aix-Marseille University and the University of Applied Science in Vorarlberg. The project is divided in 4 actions. The first is an action where we organize some focus groups with students, stakeholders, entrepreneurs in each local area. The second activity is participatory quantitative and qualitative research realized in some different ways, but carried out in each area, where we analyzed the need for remote working and co-working spaces for local community, for companies, for workers, and so we collected quantitative and qualitative data. And so the activity 1 and the activity 2 are finished, and the activity 3 that you will see and the activity 4 you are seeing here, activity 4 are still ongoing. So now I'm going to present very briefly a few results from the quantitative and qualitative research and from Action 1. So you will see here we try to answer to this question: what do this area needs in order to embrace remote work, to change, to improve, to manage the transition to remote work in the Alps. So you will see there are different solutions proposed by the stakeholder, by the work that we did. And now I want to highlight for what are the most important. Of course, there is this idea of improving connectivity, and we saw before that connectivity is an enabling factor. There is the need of new co-working spaces. The co-working spaces are already present in the area in France, but they are not present in Doren or in Vincennes. What is important to build, for example, is a platform or an application. This is one interesting idea proposed by the Austrian team to create an application that provides information on visas, work permits, on solution for accommodation and co-working places to identify a local contact person available to respond to remote workers' questions. And one of the needs that emerge from this survey and from the focus group that we organize, and in my opinion is really something that can drive and can steer the change in the Alps, is to foster an organizational culture that encourages management by objectives. So the needs is also for management education, to support the idea that what is important is to complete the task for the worker, and that the methods, the spaces, the times to get the result can be decided by individual worker. It is a culture that value the reward worker skills, but not in an individualistic way. This is precisely the risk of remote work, which is isolation, individualism. And so how we can manage this transition to use remote work and to contrast, to combat isolation, one solution could be building new co-working spaces. And for example, in the area of Evanson, the action for the feasibility study is a study on how to construct a co-working space.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Angelo Medazzo. Next, the same question for Claudia Zolla, changes and desirable scenarios. So you're working on and for.
It's a pity we are not in your project. We would have liked that a lot. Well, I think that the first thing we are focusing on is building infrastructure in our territory, because only a small part of it has got optical fiber, and this is an essential requirement for developing further actions. We do like a lot the idea of co-working, and as far as remote working is concerned, because of the geographical, the geography of our territory, we really need to be allowed to remote working. We've got a main central valley and then lateral valleys. And if we want people to stay in the mountains, we must give them the opportunity to work from their home. So remote working is really a priority for us.
Okay, thank you. And now from online, Michele Barale, the same question about changes and or desirable scenarios are you working for?
Okay, so I come back to my presentation, and yes, it's interesting because this is a topic that is a topic about spaces from both the contribution I heard up to the moment. To answer both your question and also to contribute, this is the map we already realized. The map is online, and the map currently is. I just counted all those spaces that are in the Alps area. So we have around 700 spaces about co-working, co-workation, and co-work-care. Okay. And yes, just to make some explanation, co-working is there are spaces not taught as co-working as priority function. They usually have they usually are spaces for accommodation, B&B, hostel, and so on. They also offer spaces for co-working. Then that's why we created this term co-working, and it's a term quite new that already has a very little literature, but it has. While co-work-care is how can I say, matching of co-working and care spaces, and are spaces for co-working that also provide facilities for caregiving. So if we reduce the map up to, sorry, it doesn't work here. Okay, if you reduce the map to the Alpine Convention area, we see that we can find around 300 spaces. We'll reduce to the half. Each dot is a space, of course. What is interesting is that changes are happening. If we have quite a, I can say, dense geography, there are still free spaces, mainly due to mountain areas, real mountain without living spaces. What is also interesting is the density of is different between each geography and among the 7 states of the ESALP area. And another topic, but it is there is a space for other research in the future, is linked to those initiatives that are private or bottom up. For instance, we also mapped some how can I say, prototype organized by municipalities that are organizing co-working spaces in not so used or not so used spaces of the buildings. And this is we have mapped several experiences in the area. Finally, our map is already online. Each space you saw before on the map as a proper card, and on the card you can find the website and contact, mail or phone, and you can of course look inside the map to contact the spaces. On our map, on our website, we're also running a survey that it is about to be concluded in a couple of weeks. So we are still not able to present any data, but we are making we are serving the interest in match together facilities for caregiving and co-working space.
Okay, thank you, Michele Berale. Next question, sorry, the same question for Noémie Lechat.
Yes, I will share my screen one more time. Oh. Is it working?
Not yet. Yes.
Yes, great. So regarding our project and the perspective, what we learned with this project was that co-learning places were relevant, but we need to clearly identify, for the learners, but also for local stakeholders, what co-learning places are, and because as every new services, we need to work on the publicity and clearly explain what those co-learning places offers. And also in existing facilities, it can be very confusing if the publicity not very well done is. And we also noticed that it was very important with e-learning to place learners in the center of their pathway and to adapt the process to their reality, because some are dealing with a problem of mobility or digital illiteracy, or it's complicated to have a childcare, and it can create some difficulties for the learners to follow the program in good conditions. We also noticed, even with the pandemic, that the distance learning opportunities were not so developed. In France, I don't know for other countries, but in France, we still need to work on the development of new e-learning programs and to make them visible, because it's not the case for now. And also to create those new places or to transform existing facilities, it's very important to provide resources for small municipalities or small communities to run those co-learning places, and to entertain the community of learners with some like an animator or something, because otherwise it can be very the learners can feel a bit lonely in the pathway. And just to finish, I wanted all those perspectives are available in the recommendation handbook we created. Unfortunately, it's only written in French. And we also have a platform with the description of the project and some resources, but also in French. But if you are interested, don't hesitate to contact us, and we will be delighted to explain you a bit more about this project.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Noémie Lechat. Now, just last round about priorities. But let me use a question from solution focus approach. About priorities, let's imagine to have enough power, money, human resources, okay? whatever is it needed, enough power, money, and resources. What would you do about what you consider priority? We saw different ongoing process, we saw different pathways, okay, we saw the trajectories, but about priorities in the next months, in the next year, what will you do? And yes, please.
It has been mentioned many times this afternoon, but I have to stress it again, connectivity, connectivity, connectivity. And it's amazing how in this different interesting contribution, there are so many connections. I'm envious, you wanted to be in our project, I'm envious of yours, because the digital gap is so important. And it's amazing, it's not only for the elderly, the digital gap is for them to interact with the digital administration, the public administration in a digital way. Now we have to do everywhere. It's difficult, but still important, the youth. So this idea of community of learner has been stressed also by our Austrian partner, particularly in a very rural area. They cannot be in touch with the class. They are remote distance online learner, and they wanted to be in touch. So connectivity, and fill the digital gap with skill, digital skill. But the answer is communities. Community.
And what are you doing the next year about connectivity to improve your organization?
I don't know what to say, but of course we will spread the result of our project, but also at the same time we will see the new university, and perhaps the university will be an answer to new form of connectivity. The new university in Valle d'Aosta will be open next year. So it will be a very advanced example of connectivity for the community.
Just tangible. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Same question for Claudia Zolla. What would you like to do, or what would you do about your priority the next year?
Yeah, I think that if we had the power, total power, we would be very glad of that, and we would ask to have a well-equipped area. So I join her when you talk about connectivity. This is really essential. And I think that we can stress the regional administration to give us connectivity as soon as possible. We really need it. And then I think we have to promote our territories. If we want to keep mountainous areas alive, we can sort of promote these territories towards people who live in big cities, so that they may join us and maintain our areas alive.
Okay, like becoming ambassador of your territories. Like becoming an ambassador of your territories.
Yeah, I think we do live in paradise, actually, so we have to promote that.
Okay, thank you very much. Leila, Izzard, what will you do about?
I'm going to give a bit of a longer answer, but in my opinion, the topic of digitalization and digital skills in the Alpine context is so inspiring, mostly because of how much potential it has of progress and growth in our regions. Climate change is transforming the landscape and bringing unpredictable weather and snow conditions. Globalization means the Alps are home to an increasingly international visitors and clients. To these rapid changes, if used correctly and responsibly, digitalization and innovation can be the solution of the century. As a 21-year-old member of USALP Youth Council, I will mostly speak about the population of young people of the Alpine area. The Alps have always been synonymous of beauty, tranquility, and cultural richness. However, there are also many challenges facing those who live in such remote places, as we have discussed until now, but especially for young people. How can we ensure that there are not only enough opportunities of success, but that young people also have the tools to get them? Mountains, once seen as isolated, are slowly being connected to the global economy through internet access and digital platforms. In this context, the rapid growth of remote work and digital technologies are an opportunity we cannot miss. Remote working is becoming increasingly appealing for young people around the world to have a stable income and successful career while living in the location of their choice. With more full and partly remote jobs available, youth living in hard-to-reach mountain regions can avoid long transport time and be more flexible in their work schedule. Not only will this encourage Alpine locals to stay, but professionals and creatives seeking serenity and the unique mountain lifestyle in our little paradise can be attracted, bringing fresh ideas and innovation. AG5's ambition to test the digitalization and options for remote working is a great start. However, please do not forget that young people are curious and full of energy. We want to meet new people, we want to explore the world, and we want to see new places. You talked about connectivity. I'm going to add mobility. A realistic and successful remote working strategy has to be paired with a generous and reliable mobility network. I hope you can work as a team with AG4 to ensure that young people are encouraged to stay by enabling them to travel quickly and comfortably and not be cut off completely from city life.
Yes, at the same. But what we'll do, or you personally, or you as a Youth Council member, will do in the next 12 months about that?
We're going to mostly be hoping to work with
Okay.
AGs 3 and 5 and
Okay,
to work on
perfect. Okay,
projects.
thank you. Well, okay, from the same question to Michele Barale.
Okay, so this is quite a challenging question.
What you will do in the next 12 months about your priority?
About connectivity, we were talking about before. I think that this is what can really empower the so-called marginal territories. The topic is that marginal territories is under the urban point of view, we are marginal. But if I had the possibility to give, how can I say, a project, I'd like to focus mainly on working on co-working, of course. I like to focus on a common space, a common ruling space for all the Alpine Arch, because we faced by making our research, we noticed that the normative aspects are quite different in the 7 states. It is a big priority to focus on how rules can to match together caregiving institution, caregiving facilities, and co-working. And another good point is also to support municipalities, local municipalities, to promote, to create spaces like co-working, especially working on not used or abandoned buildings that are quite a lot in the Alpine area, and can provide sometimes spaces for local municipalities.
Okay, thank you, Michele Barale. Noemi Reshat.
It's difficult to be the last one and to be original, but I will try to do it. So regarding your question, I think as it has been said that we need to have a systematic approach, like to create multidisciplinary communities and to bring people to work together, such as SME or public institution or private organizations such as Citizen. And also with this systemic approach, when we want to develop remote work or e-learning, we also need to think bigger and if we want to maintain population on the area or to bring new people in local area, we need also to think about all the services. And for instance, in France, we have a huge problem with the affordable housing, and also develop public transport, and also think about businesses open all year. So all those other services are also relevant for to bring new people in those area. And for your second questions, what I will do for the next 12 months, ADRE is also part of the project Smart Community, and the project wants to bring and create links between different smart communities working on those different smart dimensions. So it will be our parts.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for many ideas and also tangible signs of change and project pathways. We saw different challenges of digitalization, of developing skills, new skills for new jobs, not yet existing maybe. So we have just a couple of minutes. If you have questions or curiosity, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. I just have one item I was missing. In fact, was what I would call working hubs. If you look at the valleys in the center, they were talking about the libraries where people meet. In fact, I mean, they started to learn digital skills, but it was all about also about social isolation. What we saw with the COVID, and with the COVID, also some hotels closed. I know in Champoluc, Courmayeur, whatever. We have been talking about craftsmanship. In some cities you see these centers where you have craftsmanship. You've got people now with digital skills, with design skills, artistic skills, and they can join together in one center. Younger and older ones, they have craftsmanship, often also our old people, for instance, agriculture, textile, and those people working together in one community, which is very stimulating for the whole community. And if you're talking about learning, what do you do with your learning? Sometimes you have to start doing something concrete with it, and in our society, something profitable, make a job of something and earn money. So it's just a suggestion about working hubs in those rural areas where you not only digital connectivity, but also human connectivity together with digital connectivity, and then connectivity with the rest of the world to sell your propositions. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Have you some comments on comments? I think it is, yes, it is promising, mixing for innovation, mixing layers of innovation, mixing technology and people process, social technological process, social technological innovation, not only technological, but mixing at the social level and technological level. Okay, thank you very much. And I thank you all the speakers, and also Mauro Cosotto, if you want to conclude with this agreement. Okay.
I just thank everybody for your attention, and see you soon, maybe in Trentino next time.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this plenary concluding session of the first day of Digital Alps Conference 2023. And thank you to all the moderators, all the speakers, all the participants to the contribution to the first day of works. The four workshops were very intense and fruitful, so I will ask to the moderators to give us their uptake, 3 minutes each one, on what emerged during the works. So Paolo, maybe you can start from your workshop.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carlo. Well, the last workshop ended with a call in action about connectivity. We started from connectivity. We all know that it is one of the key enabling technology, and but we all know that mountain areas has a problem for connectivity due to orography and democracy. Anyway, the public sector has a role in this market failure area. It is a role about stimulating demand, about regulation, on sharing of infrastructures, on facilitating construction permits. Somebody it runs, somebody it's not enough. It happens also that with the bottom-up approach, some farmers build their own fiber optics connection. But anyway, this bottom-up approach, which is a residual solution in connectivity, we learned that it's one pillar for smart communities to enable digitalization. A bottom-up approach which involve the population in decision, irrespective of local tradition. It's a key factor also to involve the private sector. We talked about private involvement. Of course, telco providers play a role, an important and effective role for connectivity. But what can speed up the local SMEs' digital intensity is also involving them in the smart process. We talked about farmers, and the project talked about 20 living labs. And science only starting by real problems, they could provide effective solutions by involving and monitoring the company's science for the first step. But it's also a matter of skills. No one size fits all solution. This sentence has been repeated a few times this afternoon. Different business sectors need different curricula and training to increase the digital intensity. Testing different model of smart communities is the best way to find a more participated innovation process. And last but not least, the insight we got was give room to innovation, to practice and research. Digital transition could rely on a scientific approach. We talked about the relevance of data ecosystem, but there is also the need to work on quantity of attempts to try to identify winners and losers, and to implement a project cycle that is made and capable to suggest a tailor-made solution for each community. This was what I wanted to say, to report to you.
Thank you a lot, Paolo. Now, Daria, what about the potential of data and artificial intelligence? The next 3 minutes are for you.
Hello. To summarize the workshop about potential of data and AI in alpine space, I dare to use ChatGPT to demonstrate human AI collaboration. So I've somehow collected inputs or key messages of our speakers and compiled them into oral message that sounds like this. In the heart of the stunning alpine region, we are at a crucial point where tech and innovation meet eco-friendliness. Going digital is the key to progress here. To really make the most of it, we've got to figure out what our communities need. Weather data and AI are about to become big players in changing the Alps. They'll spark new ideas, help us make better decisions, and come up with green solutions. But there's still work to be done to get the most out of them. Our top priority is making the Alpine region carbon neutral, especially with climate change on the horizon. To make a solid plan, we need a complete and current set of data about energy transitions. This will be the foundation of our strategy for the next few decades. Switching to clean energy isn't just something we want, it's something we need to our communities and the environment. The water in the Alps is super important, and we've got to manage it right. We need to work together on managing water as the climate changes and more people will move in. Public-private partnerships should team up to gather better water data with cool new AI-driven tech. This way we can adapt to climate change and population shifts. Also, we need to help smart rural areas collect important data. European projects can help out by offering special training and shared resources. We are all about being eco-friendly and promoting a circular economy. We need to treat data as shared as asset, following the EU's Digital Strategy and Data Act. By guiding everyone in our innovation community to understand how important sharing data is, we can create reliable sharing systems. This won't just boost innovation, it's also help folks in the region build up their digital skills. In a nutshell, we've got to work together to shape the future of the Alps. If we focus on these priorities, we can make the most of digital tech, speed up the shift to clean energy, manage water wisely, and push for a circular economy. Together, we can keep the beauty of the Alps intact and make life better for those who live here. So let's jump into this journey toward a sustainable Alpine future where innovation and taking care of the environment go hand in hand. So maybe some additional data is needed, but this is where we are today.
Thank you, Daria. And so, Rocco, if we focus on a human-centric society, so what about remote working, digital skills, and future job?
Yes, in our workshop, we heard about and saw different projects, different initiatives involving different targets, from thousands of high school students, from local community, through library, through new place of co-working, also including elder people or children, so different level, different groups of social group. Really interesting in terms of tangible also changes and promising pathways to developing skills, soft skills in local communities, to necessary to have a future. And this social and technology, the speaker mentioned connectivity. And we measure connectivity in terms of megabyte per second, gigabyte in co-working place or co-learning place, maybe. Okay. This is a really inspiring pathway.
Thank you, Rocco, for your inspiring part. And also, I think we have to be inspired also to cope with the mega trend of climate change, adaptation, and energy transition toward a green economy. So, Etienne, what are your take on this?
Yeah, so in our workshop, we had some very shining example of how digitalization can be used in natural resources to track more transparency, how it can be used for decentralized energy production and also energy consumption and balancing the grid also at local level. How digitalization is important in remote area for training and training to the effect of climate change and in new jobs, but on climate change and in remote areas. How digitalization can be a really good support for behavior change, and we know that how behavior change is important in the energy transition and also in adaptation to climate change, and how digitalization can help us to have some better, accurate narrative of our territories. So in a more, let's say, political level, our speakers and our workshop, we highlighted, as it was already said by the by some other speaker here, that we absolutely need to facilitate the access to digital services. That's really important, and especially in mountain area. We know that it's more challenging, maybe it's more expensive than in the plain, but it's really, really important. And we really need to invest in these infrastructures. I think that's a key point, and that's really a political messages for our regional, national, European authorities. But also that politics should not be afraid of the reality of the energy transition and the adaptation to climate change. We are very happy that today is a very sunny day. It's a bit scary in terms of climate change, but we should not be afraid and be proactive. And that's what we wait on the field, and local stakeholders and regional stakeholders are waiting that politics have some courage really to invest in this energy transition and invest in this access to digital services. We also need to have, but not, maybe it's not the same level, more at local level, that really territories should really be engaged in adaptation strategies, and digital tools can really support them to understand the effect of climate change in their territory, and also to make the good and the right decision for the future.
Thank you, Etienne, for your view, your call for action for the politician that tomorrow will give us their vision, and thank you for all you for. Before to close today's session, I will give the floor to Peter Niederer, just for a message about the Smart Alps network. What is the Smart Alps network and why it is important? So please come on the stage for 3 minutes also from your part.
Yes. So thank you very much, Carlo, for this small slot of promotion for the Smart Alps network. The Smart Alps network is a HE5 USALP baby, we could say, launched 2 years ago, and actually we had a small interruption because there was no funding available anymore, but now with the new Smart Community project we have again financial means to administer this Smart Alps network. In brief, the Smart Alps network is an informal network of smart villages, smart regions, smart communities, and actually the aim is to exchange on smart transition issues, to also provide support to our members. And actually the next webinar, the Smart Alps webinar, which we are organizing regularly, is on co-working spaces. It's related to the topic we have been discussing in the second workshop. So I hope that there are many participants, of course. It's also open to you. And if you're interested in, or rather your organization is interested into the Smart Alps network, you can adhere. The admission is for free. And actually, you can just send me an email on this email address and express your interest to join, and then you're already with us. And I think it's really worthwhile to work together in a transnational mode to exchange on smart transition. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and we hope that we are spreading our idea and we are also growing in numbers in our network. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for your message. So we are at the end of this first day. So see you all of you tomorrow for the political day, for political discussion and policy option. And the work will start at 9 o'clock online and in presence. So have a nice evening and see you tomorrow.
all the speakers.